What's up, everybody? DeWitt Scott from Moraine Community College, back with another edition of the Daily Reading Room, where I give you a book review for every single day of the 2022-23 academic school year. And the book review that I have for today is a book entitled, a very popular book, New York Times Besteller, The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. And this is a book published in 2010 that it's a book that for the past 12 years has been a very hot topic, a bestseller, one of the most popular books in the country, if not the world, just because of what this book says about the racial circumstances here in America. And the New Jim Crow talks about how Jim Crow, the original Jim Crow back in the late 19th century, early 20th century, was about separating the races, black and white people specifically, in all types of social interactions, whether it's school, whether it is the church, whether it is business, everywhere, right? That Jim Crow was custom and it was law in a lot of different places, right? Where there was a racial caste system, a hierarchy, right? Where whites were above blacks in every sense of the word. That was struck down legally and abolished after all of the work of the civil rights movement and those activists at that time. So now, since then, since the 1960s, Jim Crow as a legal institution has no longer been on the books. But what Michelle Alexander argues in this book is that Jim Crow has now come back in a reimagined and reincarnated form through mass incarceration. She says when you look at the incarceration rates by race, black people are far more likely to be incarcerated, to be on probation or parole than whites. And she gives a lot of detail as to why, all of the things that have led up to that reality. But most importantly, or most central to that sort of disproportionate incarceration rate between blacks and whites is the war on drugs. And she talks about how the war on drugs disproportionately incarcerates and affects and decimates the black community as compared to the black and brown community, but particularly black community as compared to the white community. And she talks about how so many black people get arrested and convicted for non-violent drug crimes, and they get slapped with felonies on their record, which then takes away their ability to vote in some areas, takes away their ability to have access to public housing in certain areas, student loans in certain ways because of these drug laws, access or serving on a jury. All of these things, food stamps or welfare in certain areas, right? All of these things that sort of makes one sort of a citizen in America, right? So she says that you get these felonies for these nonviolent drug crimes, and then you have all of these sanctions or all of these penalties slapped on you for becoming a felon. And now because of those penalties, you're not able to go to school, you're not able to have certain housing, you're not able to receive welfare, you're not able to serve on a jury. Well, guess what? You're no longer a citizen, right? So now you have a separation. Those with felonies are not actual citizens because they don't have all the same rights. Those without felonies do have citizens. And then when you break down those categories by race, you see that there is a racial caste system, mostly blacks with felonies, whites with non-felonies, right? So it is a really, really powerful book, well-researched. She has gotten a lot of attention for the book because of everything that she's brought to the forefront. I recommend the book to anybody who wants to understand political science, who wants to understand criminology, who wants to understand race, history. It covers a lot of different, it overlaps a lot in a lot of different areas. So The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander, one of the best books of all time. Please check it out and contribute to the conversation because it's a very important book.